All right, episode 9 of the Orange and Blue Crew with myself, Jai, and Reek. It has been quite a journey, and the playoffs are finally here. We are recording this on Thursday, the 17th, and of course, the Knicks tip off against the Sixers. Or is it the 17th or the 18th? No, the
18.
18th. Yeah, today is the 18th, and we tip off against the Sixers on Saturday. I can't wait. I know we've been waiting for it. There's been a lot of speculation about what seed are we going to get? What is this? What's going to happen with that? Who are we going to play? Who do we want to play? Who do we not want to play? But all that's out the window. We know who we're playing. And I mean, I'm just excited. You see right here, I'm repping Park City. I was just on a ski trip. So normally we would record on a Wednesday, but this week we're recording on a Thursday. So, um, yeah, before we get into the playoff preview, let's quickly just address what's happened since our last episode. So, of course, obviously, like I said, we were just chatting. We did end our last episode to watch the Celtics game, which went about as perfectly as it could have. I knew we were going to win. I was expecting a win, and we got the win. We got the job done. So, big win. And the Celtics tried to start their guys and they got cooked. I mean, Brunson at 39, wish he had 40. Because I think it would have been he would have been what, like the third Nick ever to have three straight 40-point games, but instead
Yeah.
finishes with 39. Is what it is. But he cooked. And then we played the Nets on Friday and had to come back a little bit for that one. Um, in the first half, we were trailing big, and then I think OG had 15. I think he finished the game with
In the
15
third
points,
quarter.
and he had 15 all in that third quarter. So
Hmm.
OG led the comeback against the Nets. We won 111 to 107. So that was a big one there. And then, of course, everybody finished. Everybody finished their season on Sunday. We finished up with the Bulls, and that was a crazy game. I was able to catch the fourth quarter and overtime because I was on the mountain, and then we came back to tailgate in the parking lot. So basically, I thought tailgating was like before you do something, but apparently in skiing, tailgating is when you can do it either before or you can hit the mountain, take a break, and during that little hour, 2 hour break, you're outside, you're grilling, you're cooking, you're eating, whatever, drinking some beers, what have you, and then you go back on the mountain. So we went out, we hit the mountain. This is my second day skiing. We were at Snow Basin in Salt Lake City. So we hit the mountain, then we came back, cooked. One of my friend made some chili. We had some beers. We were talking. We were chatting, and everyone else is talking, and I'm locked in on the Knicks game. So I was able to catch the back half of that. Another Brunson masterclass. Of course, this game he had 40. And and Dante hit some big shots at the end. Um, yeah, Dante had some big shots. He made five threes. He finished with 25. Josh had 12 points. Bogdanovich shot really well. Again, he scored 13 points, but he was 3 for 6 from three. But yeah, let me get your guys' thoughts. We won that game 120 to 119 to capture the 2 seed in the Eastern Conference, which was huge because there was a lot of, we could have went from anywhere from 2 to 6, I think, basically going into that game. But or I don't know if maybe that game, but I know the Nets game was big as far as avoiding the 6, and then maybe we could have been anywhere from 2 to 5, depending on how the results shook out on Sunday. But nonetheless, we ended up getting the 2 seed. So let's start with you, Jai. Just thoughts how we closed out the season, and just thought any takeaways from the last 3 games.
Yeah, I think the Knicks, I think we were 45 and 32 with 5 games to go. And I really wanted the 50 wins, but I wasn't like too hell bent on it. And I was like, we got to win 5 games straight, which we've done before, but it wasn't looking like we were in that type of groove for the season. I mean, just even a couple games before that, there were play-in worries from, Knicks Twitter and everything. And then we had a chance to swing at, what we thought was the third seed and ended up being the second seed. Um, and yeah, OG had some great games, Hardenstein, whoever, but like Brunson. I mean, Brunson absolutely brought it to another level. Even since the last time we talked, a whole other level since we came, and like just even looking at the team as a whole. You know, Julius put out a he put out a video this morning about his recovery. OG had a press conference. Brunson had a press conference. They're just the whole organization is locked in pretty much around this guy Brunson. And I mean, I was watching the playing game last night, Sixers Heat. There were times it was a game of runs. Sixers started off strong. He came back. Jimmy got hurt, but those teams looked incredibly human last night. And we have somebody who's inhuman, who's superhuman. So, I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do. And that's all I'll say for right now.
Reek, your thoughts on how we finished the season since the last time we spoke?
Yeah, 50 wins. That's nothing to shake a stick at. That's a pretty big achievement for this team, especially losing Julius Randle. When we did, beating these teams that, like you mentioned in your intro, you had to go against that Boston team. You had that on your calendar, looking at it like, all right, are they going to play their guys, or they're going to have it all sewed up by then? Then you look at the Nets and the Bulls, and you're like, yeah, well, those will probably just be cleanup games where we'll get a chance to see, Daquan Jeffries. But it actually turned out, dude, like Jai said, we needed those 5 wins to get to 50 wins. And the I know that Celtics win was like, kind of like the end of the season, and but like they wanted to win. They wanted to win that game. I think they wanted to send a message going into the playoffs that they still had our number, and they came out bombing in the first quarter, and we just took it and took it to them. So that was a really, to me, I think that was the playoff preparation win that got us through the next 2 games, because playing Chicago 3 times in 2 weeks or whatever it was, like, that's hard, man. Yeah, you both of you play sports, you know how it is. It's like you got to play the same team again and again and again. So all of those wins were very important. I didn't think, though, that, I'll tell you, when I was watching the Bulls game, I thought at the about 6 or 7 minute mark in the fourth, I was like, all right, we got 49 wins. Tibbs not gonna, risk Brunson, and he's gonna let him stay on the bench in the fourth quarter. And the sequence was just so dope. When Bogdanovich came down and hit that transition three, I was like, yo, nuts. And it was just like, to anybody else, it's just like a meaningless game. But he hit that transition three, and sure enough, the camera panned to the bench, and Brunson got up. I was like, oh, damn, we going for it. I was like, oh, God, please don't get hurt. They'll never let Tibbs hit the end of this. But it was so exciting, man. I was so happy that, we got to that 50 wins. And then then we got to the then my stomach started hurting again immediately after. But I'll save that for our playoff preview.
Okay. Well, hey, like you guys said, getting to 50 wins is no small thing. I definitely wanted to try to do it just because we haven't done it since, Jai, you said we hadn't done it since you were, 10 years old. Yeah, it's been a minute, man, since we've won 50 games. And I feel like when it being a 50 win team is definitely a meaningful accomplishment, especially, considering when we lost Randall, because there was a lot of season left when we lost Julius Randall. And when you consider, pardon me, we were hovering around that 500 reigns to start the season. I think at one point we were maybe 13-14 or 14-13. Like it was just not pretty. We didn't look like a team. Like we look like kind of a similar team to what we've been in the past couple seasons. Right. Even when we made the playoffs, where it was just like, okay, maybe we'll make it and we'll be kind of that pesky 5 seed, that tricky 6 seed, but no real aspirations to do anything after the first round. But for, obviously, the shout out to the front office. Again, Leon Rose, it took some time, but I see the vision, and I can really respect. I mean, it's easy to say when moves work out the way that the OG trade has worked out, and it even took some time for Bogdanovich, because I know you guys, I know you guys weren't too high on it, and I was definitely the lone ranger as far as being pro Bogdanovich, because Burks, I think we all like knew what we would get out of Burks. We might get a couple of good games, we might get a couple of good moments, but he's really just there to maybe fill space. But I was really high on that, and I've been saying, you know, he'll win us some games and he'll win us some playoff games. And even amidst the struggles, I think we've seen that. You know, there's a few games down this last, 12 to 15 games or so where we might not win without him. So, and I think we can, even though I know you guys weren't too high on it initially, I think we can all admit that we wouldn't have won a few of these. I mean, even that Bulls game. I mean, we probably don't win that game without Bogdanovich. The Celtics game, we probably don't win that Celtics game. I mean, I know Brunson at 39, but I could pull up the group chat. Bogdanovich was out of his mind. I think he was like 5 for 6 or 5 for 7 to start the game, and he hit that crazy reverse layup, and I think Jai was "Oh my god, no way he made that layup!" And I was like,
he was rolling. He was rolling at that
regular. Point. Yeah,
I told my friends he's getting freaky deaky, and I've been saying that ever since.
Yeah. Bogdanovich finished 6 for 10, but I think he started the game like 6 for 7. So, but yeah, shout out to Bogdanovich and shout out to that front office because like I said, getting hurt when Julius Randle did and the way we started the season would have been very easy to just be like a 42 to 43 win team and maybe be kind of 7 or 8 seed or maybe barely be the 6. But we stepped up and we got the job done and we got to 50 wins. So huge credit to that. That being said, shifting gears into the playoff preview, because now everything that happened in those first 82, that's the first season. I've seen there's this guy on Twitter. I don't know if you guys ever heard of him, J. Richard Goodman. He's a pretty popular name. He's got a ton of followers. And he's like well respected amongst like basketball circles. He played basketball, I think, in college. He's a Warriors fan, and he's got a lot of strong basketball opinions. I tend to agree with him on a lot of things. And he's actually someone who believes in big guards, who believes in length. And in his Twitter bio, he says defense and rebounding wins NBA championships, which is, I mean, that couldn't be any closer to the truth. I mean, defense wins championships. But one thing he believes in is he says small guards don't win. And because of that, he's been really, really tough on the Knicks all year. But he's come around because of just how good Jalen Brunson is, right? And a lot of people, I think, are still doubting the Knicks. I mean, even Vegas has the Knicks as an underdog in the series. I think the Knicks were like, I mean, not a huge underdog. I think I saw maybe plus 108, plus 105. But let's start with this. Based on, all things considered, we have the matchup. It's the Knicks and the Sixers, and we went 3-1 against the Sixers this year. 2 wins, I think, came when the Sixers had Embiid, and then 1 win when the Sixers without Embiid, and then obviously 1 loss in the worst game of all time, 79 to 73.
73.
Yeah, that was the worst game of all time, and that was also without Embiid. So, excuse me. Just how do you guys, now that you know that the matchup is set, let's just start with this one. How do you guys feel about just, ending up with Philly? We'll start with you, Reek, because I think Philly was my number one, didn't want to play, but like, I also preface it by saying, I don't care who we play. I think we beat anybody in the first round, but I think Philly was pretty up there for you, Reek. So just now that it's set, how are you feeling going into the weekend?
Yeah, so Philly was, if you go back to the videotape, that was the sports machine from back in the day. Neither one of you knew that one. But yeah, if we go back to the videotape, we'll see that the Sixers were the matchup that I did not see. And that's why I was also, biting my fingernails when we put Brunson back in the game and we were going for it to get the number 2 seed. Just because, if you take a look at the matchups, it just gives us a harder way to go. And there's a couple of ways you can look at that. The guy's an MVP. Hopefully we can Hartenstein and Mitch can come together to form a fantastic wall behind him, but he can really go. There are certain things that you watch when you saw the Philly and the Miami game where he just wasn't 100%. He wasn't, dunking. He wasn't, he was more facilitating and hitting jump shots and things like that. And he was pretty much off. I think he was like, I don't know, he had a terrible shooting percentage, maybe something like 7 for 15. That's not bad. 7 for 20 or something, maybe. Like, I forget what it was. But yeah, I just didn't want to see them because with them full, they have Joel Embiid, a former MVP, and that allows Tyrese Maxey to get off and put our guards in or whomever else into foul trouble. But that's just on paper. When you watch this team, the Knicks that we have now, you'll be able to see that the defense is tremendous. So even if there are possessions where you'll have OG Anunoby having the opportunity to stick Embiid, because that's what happened in the games that we won. So the defensive matchups and the defensive schemes that I'm confident that Tibbs will bring it together and put us in the best possible position to win. And we do have the guns to beat this Sixer team. We get past this Sixer team, we're going to be clicking at an all-time level. That's just what I'm looking forward to. I think that once you get past this is a great test. And even if we were to beat Miami without Jimmy Butler, it would have still been a question. But we go in here and we get to a Philly. Yeah, they're going to, there'll probably be some detractors that are like, oh yeah, Embiid wasn't full strength. But I'm just confident that we'll get the wins that are necessary. But this just makes it a really, really difficult way to go. And I also want to just say one last thing. I loved the Bogdanovich trade. Great trade for what we needed. I did not love the way that bum has been playing until he hit that transition 3 the other night. And we got
all the way until game 82.
That's it. The all the other stuff, I was like, yeah, show me in the playoffs. Yeah, show me later. He hit that damn 3, man. I was like, oh my God, did we get that? But yeah, so the Philly team really, really was not my favorite selection, but you got to get through them. You got to get through everybody. So that's what I got.
Jai, your thoughts? I think they were kind of maybe in the middle for you, but how do you feel now that it's actually shaking out this way?
They were number 3. So right down the middle. And I'm in the same sort of with Dad. Like I think that the Knicks have to be able to beat anybody at any time to be able to get on to the next level and be in that upper pantheon of teams. But watching that Heat Sixers game, the Sixers were not the better team last night. Just like period, they weren't. Embiid looked really slow. They couldn't beat a zone to save their lives. They relied on Nick Batum and Campaign hit like 1 big 3 or something like that to get them out of a funk. So yeah, they really struggled against that zone, which was like very telling for me, and also Embiid's unwillingness to go down low, which is what we struggled with against him. And the Sixer team has been rolling with him back, but he has been sort of on the perimeter during the stretch. And what we struggle with against the Sixers when we lose against them is foul trouble, and it's especially down low. He can get a guard maybe, at the shoulders with the, foul baiting and all that. But down low, Mitch and Hartenstein both really struggled with fouls against Embiid. So yeah, I just feel like, watching that game yesterday, I really didn't want to play the Heat again. Jimmy or no Jimmy, they play physical. They could have got, I just feel like even though we won our regular season matchups, it didn't feel like we matched up well against them in the playoff atmosphere. So I think that this is really the best case scenario. And like Dad said, like if we can beat this team, I'm not even thinking about the second round. I'm thinking about the ECF.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I will say, I know Philly was number 1 on my list of like who I wouldn't want to play. But like to me, like the Heat aren't good. Like they were so bad Like they were a lot lowest on my list, and I mean that's who Miami had to, or that's who Philly had to beat, and Philly barely beat them. So I'm not worried about Philly. I don't know what it is. I think maybe, and it might sound biased, it might sound like homerish of me to say, but I don't think people truly think the Knicks are good still. Like I think there's people who really think that we're just a pesky regular season team. We are like, I don't know what our record is since we've gotten OG, but in games Brunson and OG have played, I think we've lost 3 games. We're 20-3. We've lost 3 games when just those 2 guys play. And perhaps maybe that's just a misevaluation of how good Jalen Brunson is and how good OG Anunoby is. Are they the type of sexy names like Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, or LeBron James and AD, or Giannis and Dame, Tatum and Brown? Maybe not. But I mean, you can't argue with the results. And of those 20 wins, there's a lot of really good. I mean, we beat, the Bucks just a week ago, just beat the Celtics, and they started their guys, right? They started their guys, and we took it to them, so much so that they didn't play in the fourth quarter. And all you got to do is watch the tape. You can say, oh, like you can look at the final score or look at and just say, oh, they weren't really playing. No, they tried to come back in that third quarter because they were down big. They tried to come back. They started that third quarter. They tried to come back. They were trying. Drew Holiday was picking up Brunson full court.
Yes.
You're not picking up a guy full court if you don't want to win. So they were throwing guys at us, and we took it to them. And also, I think an underrated member of the rotation is not just Josh Hart, because I think people know how important Josh Hart is. Dante DiVincenzo. I think you and I both, Reek, were a little bit worried about the shot diet because it was a lot of moving threes, a lot of tougher threes, and not a lot of twos, not a lot of drives. But Dante DiVincenzo, and he also got snubbed out of contention for most improved player because of the games played rule.
30 seconds.
Yeah, by 30 seconds. Like he just missed it. But he's been just as important as anybody to this team. He provides scoring. He's an underrated defender. He's an underrated athlete as well. And he's another guy that his contributions can't go understated. The 3-point shooting, he made, a career, like an all-time amount of 3-pointers as a Knick, but he also, I believe he shot at 41% this season.
Yeah. So, he's third in the league. I believe he's third in the league, first in the Knicks history as a 3-point shooter. That guy is a legitimate stud.
Yeah. And I think his contributions have gone a little understated. So this isn't just some Knicks team that's happy to be here. This is a team that I think if you blink and wake up in mid-May, they'll be playing in the Eastern Conference Finals if you want to take them lightly. I'm not saying Philly is going to take them lightly, but I will say that in terms of this matchup going into Saturday, Embiid looks out of shape. He looks like a guy that hasn't played for months, and he looks like a guy that's also playing on one leg. Like he does not look like the dominant Embiid that maybe you'd be worried about. But also, like I said, Embiid doesn't scare me in the playoffs. I don't know what it is, but when it's playoff time, you don't get like Embiid is the guy that like in the regular season, you look up in the first quarter and he's got 18 points. But for whatever reason in the playoffs, he'll finish games with 18 points, multiple games. And so again, not worried about Embiid. Like these are the guys they have to rely on, just going top to bottom. Maxey is not a 1 in the playoffs yet. I don't know if he'll be that, but right now he's still not that. Because last year when he had to be a 1 in that Nets series, he was. I don't even think he had a game besides maybe game 5 or game 4 where he scored 20 points. He was struggling. He was missing a lot of shots. He was struggling. So he's not going to be able to carry the Sixers yet, I don't think. Kelly Oubre he's either going to shoot 6 for 20 or 17 for 20. And he's much more likely to shoot 6 for 20. That's a guy they're going to be relying on. So not worried about him. Tobias Harris goes without saying, not worried about him. Like I said, Embiid, he's a playoff folder and not really reliable. And then Nick Batum. And Nick Batum's not going to score 20 every game. Nick Batum's out there to make good passes and maybe hit a corner 3 every once in a while. But
if he averages 5 points.
Yeah, he averages 5 points a game. He does. I think he averages 5.2 points per game. And you're going to tell me that this guy's going to average double digits for a series against a Knicks team that plays defense?
Defense.
No.
That's the thing. And I think that's it. I know that Nick Nurse is a good coach. But I think you hit on something, D, and that's the reason I wanted to talk real quick because people don't believe in the Knicks, and it's because they don't believe in Tibbs. They don't believe that that guy is able to play playoff level defense at the level that he's making these guys play. And the beauty, the things that we've seen is that this team has completely bought into the defensive scheme. They've bought in 100%, and that's why this team is people don't understand it because they think we're all Brunson. And yes, there are going to be issues when we need secondary scoring. We're going to need Bogdanovich to be able to give us baskets when Dante can't give us a basket, or we're going to need a little bit of a boost from somebody. It was Deuce. It's going to be Bogdanovich. It's going to have to be DiVincenzo. They're going to have to collectively pull together to give us something when Brunson, because he's not going to play 100% every game. But I know, we got a closer. He's a finisher, and he finishes high percentage at the rim. And we just need another guy to be able to step up and give us a couple of easy baskets because the defense holds. The defense holds real tight every time.
Yeah.
It's a rarity that you see teams just go on these extended runs on us without the team pulling it back together. I really want to see Josh Hart get out to a start where he's finishing, just pushing tempo, getting to the rim. That guy, I love the way he finishes at the rim like David Lee used to finish at the rim. David Lee, both hands finish at the rim incredibly. He showed that when he went to Golden State too. He was a double machine. But yeah, that's the confidence I have in Josh Hart when he drives to the basket. I just love when he drives to the basket. So,
and also another aspect of this matchup is OG is probably going to be getting the Maxey matchup because this isn't a team that has, I know, like you said, you're worried about, teams that have bigger threes, and without OG, how are we going to guard that? But against the Sixers, their wings aren't necessarily they're not the type of scoring threat like a Banchero or like a Giannis or like a Tatum where, OG, those guys might have 30, but it's not going to be cute. It's not going to be, it's going to be a lot. It's going to be 30 with, they're going to get ripped a few times. They're going to get their shot blocked. They're going to miss a lot of tough shots at the rim. And that's what OG is going to give you. But I think OG against Maxey is a much favorable matchup. Now, the thing with Maxey, though, is he's very aggressive and very quick off the catch, where he's very good at catching and going. Where if he's not going to maybe cross you over and get you that way. He doesn't necessarily have that wiggle that a lot of guys like a Kyrie maybe has, but he's very quick off the catch. Where if he doesn't have anything, he'll catch it and he'll kind of drop back closer to the to the timeline, catch and try to go again. And it doesn't matter even if he's coming at you from 30 feet. He can catch you and he'll one move and go, and that's where he's dangerous. But OG, I think, is able to match up with that, is able to handle that well. So that's just the outlook. I mean, now that it's shaken out, that it is the Sixers, I'm feeling good. I'm not worried. Just disclaimer, I'll definitely be, if we're still underdogs before Saturday, I'll be taking the trip to Iowa to place a wager on the Knicks to win the series because I wholeheartedly believe we win this series. I have no doubt in my mind. I'm not worried about it. But now let's take a little bit of a deeper dive. I want your guys' thoughts on something. Paul Reed was on a podcast and he's been very vocal. Him and his, 7 points a game. He's been very vocal about his thoughts on matching up with the Knicks. And I just want to pull up specifically what he said. So he was on the Run It Back FanDuel podcast. I think Chandler Parsons is on there. So they're asking him a bunch of questions, and he was asked his thoughts on matching up with the Knicks, and he says, quote, "We wanted the Knicks matchup. That's the easier team." So, Jai, I'll let you just, what are your thoughts on just Paul Reed's comments about matching up with the Knicks in the first round? And do you think that he got the quote unquote easier matchup?
I I think the real problem with that statement is we wanted that matchup. I think that's the problem that I have an issue with personally. The issue that like Nick's Twitter has an issue with is that that's the easier matchup, which for the Sixers and Celtics history, I mean, any team is the easier matchup than Boston. Boston lives inside their heads in their arena. That whoever comes out of this, well, if they had gone to this Sixers Celtics, if that had been the series, it would have been over quick. Embiid would have shrunk. He probably would have sat games talking about he needs to. He wasn't feeling it. So yeah, that would have been over quick. They're afraid of the Celtics, but that doesn't mean that they don't need to be afraid of us. And I think that that's the problem with the Paul Reed statement. I like Paul Reed personally, not as a person. This is the first time I'm hearing him speak because he's not really relevant. But even yesterday in the game, like they played better in minutes without Embiid. Like when Embiid was off the court, those Paul Reed minutes that Nurse employed, like is what helped them get back in that game. Not really what helped them win, but what helped them get back in that game. But yeah, we're not an easy matchup by any means. If anything, we were the team waiting on the easier matchup, and I don't really know if that's what we got because Jimmy's hurt. But if Jimmy, stayed healthy, I still believe that this is the team that this Sixers team is the easy matchup for us. So we're also the second seed. So I'm happy, like you said, Darren, earlier. Like if they're gonna take the Knicks lightly, then it's gonna go quick. And if Paul Reed is talking about we're the easier matchup, they're relieved that they wanted this matchup, then they're taking us lightly. So let's see how that goes.
Yeah, I'm not really sold on what Paul Reed had to say. I mean, I think for one, I just think this team is locked in. I think the Knicks are locked in right now. Everybody's focused. This is a team that's gelling. This is a team that, again, we talked, in the early beginning episodes about how this team kind of has Detroit, Pistons vibes in 2003 or 2004. I get that from this team. These are guys that don't care Brunson is scoring 40, but like Dante DiVincenzo could have 45. Everybody's happy. Isaiah Hartenstein could have 50 and everybody's going to be happy. OG could have 40 and everybody's going to be happy. And no one's going to be like, oh, that should be me. Like, this is just a team that's bought in. And I think that's a scarier team than I'm not going to say that, we wouldn't be scary if we had or a team with like a LeBron James who is going to get 30 every night isn't scary. But I think arguably in the NBA where everybody's good now and those super teams that have, like the Suns, I don't think those types of teams are as scary or as formidable as they once were. And I think the way the Knicks are made up, Brunson is a legitimate superstar and everybody, Hart can score 30. DiVincenzo can score 30. Bogdanovich off the bench can score 30. Obviously, Brunson can score 30. OG can score 30. So this is a team that's got a lot of weapons offensively and defensively. And I hope when Paul Reed says that, they believe that the Knicks are the easier matchup, I hope he doesn't mean, or I hope he's not implying that it's an easy matchup because it's far from, we went 3-1 against these guys. We went 3-1 against these guys this year. So easier, sure, Paul Reed, but it's not by no means is it an easy matchup at all. And also, just in my opinion, just looking at it from the Knicks perspective, I don't think the Heat are that good. And the Sixers barely scraped by. And they needed 20 points from Nick Batum to even do that. So if you ask me, I think either matchup was easy for the Knicks because I don't think either team is that good. I think the Sixers showed you who they are without Embiid. And let's just say the Sixers and Embiid, say they finish as the 3 or the 4 seed, or maybe even the 2 seed with a healthy Embiid. I think that's a team that was viable to get upset in the first round by a team because I think Embiid is a playoff shrinker. And I think the makeup outside of Embiid it's kind of weird. I'm not saying that they're a bad team, but it's kind of strange. And I think they got by because I think Nick Nurse is that good of a coach where he puts guys in positions to succeed. But I don't think that talent-wise, I don't think they're that good. So I think the Knicks win in no less and no more than 6. Knicks and no more than 6. But yeah, Reek, what do you think about what Paul Reed had to say about the Knicks?
Yeah, so just from a if I'm looking at this, when you get to the playoffs, you think about like street ball. You think about traveling to somebody else's city, going onto their court, and we're talking about outside. This is where he's playing outside on the concrete or the blacktop, and you're going into other people's neighborhoods and you're coming out there playing. You're supposed to say we wanted the Knicks and we wanted to play against this team. This was our matchup. That's what he's supposed to say. But that's what the Sixers are supposed to say. Is Paul Reed supposed to be saying that? Probably not. He needs to probably shut his ass up. Like Josh said, he's averaging 7 points. He is a good player. He's a good energy guy off the bench, similar to our Precious Achiuwa, right? But he gives them a lot. And that's another thing. I know I like that Tibbs is continuously using Precious. He's still putting Precious out there in good situations, like an Embiid to save a foul or two. Precious can hold his own for a second. And I think that's going to be really good. But back to Paul Reed and what he's saying, he's supposed to say that. Or that team is supposed to say that. But yeah, and we are the easier matchup. We're down Julius Randle against and that's that Knicks team down Julius Randle going, as opposed to the Celtics who have the full load, right? They got everything. They got everybody. So yes, 100%. But I think you touched on something that I wanted to say, and that I 100% agree with. Even if the Sixers stayed healthy and B stayed in there, by the time they got to the playoffs, let's say they end at a 3 seed if everything ended up the way it was supposed to, right? Milwaukee being good, Philly being good, we pushing up to the 5th or 4th seed. The Philadelphia 76ers, as currently constructed, with everybody that they have, did not scare anybody. And I think that's the reality of this situation. They didn't really scare anybody because look, you lost Harden. Harden had them looking like world beaters until they got to the playoffs, and then everybody shrunk. And B did a good job, but then everybody else shrunk. Right? They just weren't ready. So yeah, again, I think somebody's supposed to say that. Probably should have been Maxey. Probably should have been Embiid. Not Paul Reed. I think that's why everybody is kind of like, what? But this guy? If he starts, maybe. But either way, that's what they're supposed to say. Good luck. But I think Nick Nurse, like I said earlier, is a good coach, and he's gonna get them. He's gonna have them ready. But do they have the pieces? Is Embiid gonna be able to be there? Is Tobias Harris? We win every matchup except Joel Embiid, but we got 3 guys to throw at him. So, let's see. Right. We win every matchup all the way through the bench. We win every matchup. Mm-hmm. If Cameron Payne scores 3 3-pointers in a game, I'm gonna break my TV in the living room. I mean, he makes me so mad, but. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I think again, my prediction too, we get them in no more than 6. Barring any ridiculousness that happens again. But we definitely going to need a secondary scorer to shine, and to take a step in the playoffs. I want to see that to be Bogdanovich. I want him to be that guy. Because although I've been down on him, I do want to see the lineup where he starts in place of Julius Randle. Not to give you what Julius Randle does, but to give you about 17, 18 as a starter and bring Josh Hart back off the bench and let Josh Hart play extended minutes on both units. I think that allows Mitch and the other guys on the second unit to be more effective. That's just the way I see it. Yeah, but Paul Reed, nobody worry about him. Nobody worry about him.
All right. Well, we've been, like I said, the moment is finally here. It's finally playoff time. Saturday, it all goes down. But now we've given our predictions. I think we all are saying Knicks in 6. But what are your guys? I want 3 keys from each of you. We'll wrap up this episode with 3 keys to success. What do the Knicks need to do to get the job done? I'll start this one because I've been thinking about this ever since the game, but the Miami and Philly game went final. So the three keys to success. One, like you said, like you just said, Reek, I think it's Bogdanovich scoring the ball. Not just, and I'm not talking coming in and shooting 2 for 6. I'm talking he needs to be over 35% from three in this series. He needs to be comfortable, he needs to be confident, and he needs to be aggressive, right? So I think this is the type of series where Bogdanovich, I'm not even saying 17 to 18 points because I don't think this isn't necessarily the type of series where he needs that. But I think Bogdanovich needs to give us 13 to 16 points per game, where he needs to come off the bench. He needs to be aggressive, needs to look for his shot, and he needs to be efficient in scoring the ball. Obviously, every game he's not going to be, 6 for 7 to start a game like he was against Boston. And every game he's not going to shoot 50% from three like he did on Sunday against Chicago. But this seems to be the type of series where if we're going to have success and we're going to win, we're going to beat these dudes, he's got to be in that 13 to 16 point per game range. The second key to success is the Brunson-less minutes. What do I mean by that? Obviously, he's not going to play 48 minutes per game. Is he going to be closer to 40? Yeah. So there's going to be stretches of 8 to 10 minutes per game where Jalen Brunson won't be on the floor. In those minutes, we cannot waver. We can't go scoreless, and we can't go, one for our last 7 field goals, one of those graphics popping up. The Brunson-less minutes have to either be tied or won. And I know that's easy to say, but it's crucial because even when Brunson's on the floor, we're not going to win every single second that he's on the floor. The Sixers, for what it's worth, they're a good team. I'm not scared of them, but they have good players. They have a good team. They've won 45 plus games. So in the Brunson-less minutes, we need to tie, or even if we lose those minutes, we cannot let the Sixers go on extended runs. And what I mean by extended runs is not only do they go on a run when Brunson's off the floor, but they extend that run to when Brunson inevitably checks back into the game. Because when a team goes on a 10-2 run, a 12-2 run, an 8-0 run, a 10-0 run, it's tough. And Tibbs is kind of one of those coaches that will let teams play without a timeout. Hey, figure it out. Because whether I call a timeout, whether I call a timeout, and sometimes, but I think he kind of has been leaning towards that down the stretch here, at the end of the season. But whether a coach calls a timeout or not, calling a timeout doesn't mean that all of a sudden the run stops. We have to be able to survive the Brunson-less minutes, and regardless of how far we go, even if we go in the second round, that'll be a key as well. But it's going to be absolutely a key in this series is surviving the Brunson-less minutes. And then my third key is, excuse me, Hart and DiVincenzo being attacking from the jump. We can't show up to this series expecting Brunson to have 15 points at the end of the first quarter every game. Hart has to be, what do I always talk about Josh Hart? In every episode, I say, you can always tell what type of game Josh Hart's going to play. Except that 30-point game where he surprisingly scored 30 because it didn't look like it at first. But you can always tell. Yeah, you can always tell what type of Josh Hart game you're going to get. And we need Josh Hart to drive aggressively, not driving to pass, not driving to set anybody up, not just driving to move the defense and kick. He needs to be aggressive from the jump. And DiVincenzo, he needs to shot hunt. And I know that it might sound like I want guys to not let Brunson score. Not at all. Brunson can get his no matter what. We've seen that. We've seen Brunson can score in bunches no matter who's on the floor with him and no matter what other guys are doing. But DiVincenzo and Hart need to be shot hunters. They need to be aggressive from the tip and not aggressive once it's already too late. From 12 minutes in the first quarter through 0-0-0 in the fourth quarter, DiVincenzo and Hart need to be shot hunters and not looking for shots reluctantly. I think if those three things happen, Bogdanovich being aggressive, scoring off the bench, surviving the Brunson-less minutes, and DiVincenzo and Hart being aggressive from the beginning of the games, as opposed to once we're down or once we haven't scored in a minute. I think if those three things happen, I think we win this series comfortably in 6 or less. But Jai, what do you think? What are your 3 keys to success for the Knicks to win this series?
I'm going to go from least important to most important. So for number 3, I have 48 minutes of elite center play. Just staggering Hartenstein, well, you have to staggering Hartenstein and Mitchell Robinson's minutes, and making sure that they're going to stay on the floor for 48 minutes. If Embiid is on or off, because that, that guy you're talking about, Ricky G, like, talking about defense and rebounding, like the differential is very important. Even when Embiid's off the floor and they have Paul Reed or whoever it is in there, we need to make it very clear from the beginning of the series that we're going to out rebound them and out defend them. Like, that should be the identity of the Knicks versus the Sixers. So Hartenstein and Mitch being on the floor and being impactful is going to be one of the most important things for us. Number 2 is understanding the physicality of the game right away. And this is reminding me of, we played some games against Indiana, OKC, and Orlando, sort of like at the turn of the year, in December, January, where that's when the officiating in the game started to change. And we were losing some games down the stretch because, Brunson would be going in barreling, Randall would be going in barreling, and there'd be no fouls, but we just keep forcing it over and over again and lead to turnovers out of, missed shots, no rebounds, just no offense, one and done type thing. So the refs aren't calling, excuse me, refs aren't calling stuff now. They're not going to be calling stuff. Sorry.
You good?
Yeah. They're not going to be calling stuff. They're not going to be even worse during the playoffs. So we have to recognize that and adjust to it right away. And 3 before I die, OG Anunoby. Defensively is very important, but I love his offensive game. He can make buckets look really easy, and just giving him a little bit of the reins, letting him cook a little tiny bit, I promise, is a huge key, because he can get creative. He can make his own shots. He can slash. He can do it all. He can hit the open 3. Just don't put him away on offense. I know he's gonna have to be, preserving a little bit of that energy, but if we need somebody to go and get us a bucket, I don't really want to be looking at, Josh Hart and DiVincenzo can do it, but I have real confidence in OG Anunoby.
All right, and Reek, take us home. What are your 3 keys to success for the Knickerbockers against?
Yes. You guys hit on, you guys stole a little bit of my a couple of my of my keys, but that's consistent, right? Because I think we all have the same viewpoint of the game. But one thing I want to say before I get into my 3 is that we're witnessing an effective front office. These guys have put together a team that we can legitimately sit here and talk about 5, 6 guys that are going to give you something on both sides of the ball. And we are extremely confident about all of that. So I just want to give a kudos to, Leon Rose, Worldwide West, the whole crew on our front office, because I am extremely confident in this team. Now, my keys. I will start with the Josh Hart. And on my notes, I got Josh Hart from the beginning, right? Because yes, you have been talking about that all throughout the season. And I just mentioned, how confident I am in his layups. But we need another guy that gets going in the beginning of the game, that sort of sets the pace in terms of scoring. What's the offense going to look like? It can't just be Brunson, the top weave. Then we come off with Brunson running downhill, trying to get to a floater, because then that's just relying on calls or him to make a floater. We need Josh Hart to push the tempo with the ball, getting it out of the rim and going, right? Or why not use, like I said, I'd like to see Bogdanovich, but yes, John, you touched on Dante DiVincenzo. Somebody's got to get going other than Brunson in the beginning of the game. And Dante, sometimes he'll come, there have been games he just comes out and he's probably missing 4 baskets in a row, 4 threes. But, but shot hunting might be the better thing, or run some plays for him. That backdoor play that DiVincenzo runs, he's just cutting backdoor. It looks like he's just cutting, but it's a play. And he's getting dunks out of that. That's where we see that sneaky athleticism, where you just try to dunk. He missed a couple of them, but it's very
He be
aggressive
trying
when
to
he goes.
he tries to put people in the rim, like
Yeah,
unlike I don't like even he likes to do it a lot when the play is dead. But like if you pay
yeah.
attention after the whistle's blown, he'll really rise up on somebody, and the
This
dude will kind of be
guy,
like,
look,
"Whoa!"
he is cutting back door on the baseline, and he's going for it. And I think that if we can get more of those, I trust Tibbs. I trust the coaching staff that they're going to get them going in different ways, so that Brunson's not having to do everything. Brunson is a finisher. That he's a finisher. He can get the job done, and I'm we're all seeing that. Bogdanovich, next key, gotta be Bogdanovich. I think you touched on him maybe having 13 to 15 points. Again, run something for him. Don't have him out there looking all crazy trying to shot hunt threes. He's been most effective when he's able to drive to the basket or get to his mid-range jump shot. He has a very, very good mid-range free throw line extended jumper that he's very confident in. But get him there. Get him there with or without Brunson, because it's going to be key, like you guys said. Those non-Brunson minutes are going to be critical that we have an offense of flow. And I think we might have been having some gamesmanship and not necessarily showing everything we're coming with. But against this team, you got to get that defense moving so they can't just sit in the lane. And I think backdoor cuts for DiVincenzo, getting some curls with Bogdanovich. And then my final key, like Jai pointed out, y'all stole all my stuff. But OG Anunoby, I have purposely been sort of staying away from relying too much on OG Anunoby on the offense. Just letting him work his way into whatever it is. Like, what we do know about OG is he wants a larger offensive role. I went to that Nets game the other night, and he's just out there playing defense. The game starts going. The Knicks started to run a play where OG Anunoby flared out to the he didn't flare. He ran down the court every offensive possession and went to the right side wing and was on the outside shooting the 3-pointer, and he hit I think he hit 3 in a row. Yeah, he had 3 in a row in that third quarter. He just kept it was like he's almost like a robot. He literally ran down the court and stood in the same spot. Brunson came down, drove to the basket, passed the ball to him, he banged it. Boom, 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 just like that. But then he also gets to the rim very easily on these guys. He's so strong. And his arms are ridiculously long. That can be very beneficial to us because when he's going up for layups or when he's just dunking, he's barely jumping. So OG Anunoby, more committed, not committed. The team relying more on him offensively to fill that offensive gap and to have some defense out there. Josh Hart from the beginning, I want to see him going to the rim, and then Bogdanovich and DiVincenzo, more movement and getting them incorporated into the offense so that now they have an opportunity to be their playoff selves, because they already have playoff experience. They already know what they're doing, but Tibbs has got to find a way to let them be themselves in the playoffs. And, because we've seen Bogdanovich in Utah, we've seen OG up in Toronto, we've seen Josh Hart in, wherever he's been everywhere. New Orleans, Lakers, yeah, he's been everywhere. And then we've seen DiVincenzo, right? Let these guys be their playoff selves without having such staunch roles that they have to adhere to. So OG, Bogdanovich, and DiVincenzo, more movement on the offense, and Josh from the beginning, just getting to the rim, downhill. That's what I want to see.
All right, so there you have it. Those are our 3 keys to success for the Knicks. We're feeling good. I think everybody, really every Knicks fan, I don't see any Knicks fans worried. I'm seeing a lot of positivity. I'm seeing a lot of just belief in this team, and I really think that this first round series can go extremely well. I would legitimately be shocked if we lost. I don't think Philly is that good where we can't just take care of business and make it relatively quick. I don't see us losing in less than in more than or winning in more than 6. I don't think this is going to be a 7-game series. And I also think Knicks fans are going to travel. I think Wells Fargo Center
Oh
is
my
going to be
God.
really, really Knicks heavy in one of those games, 3 or 4, maybe 6, if it gets to that point. So, yeah, I'm excited. I know y'all are excited, and I just can't wait, man. Knicks playoff basketball is back. I know Side Talk is definitely going to be active, so we'll surely get some viral Knicks clips over the next week or two, and I can't wait to see all of it. And for those of you watching, if you made it this far to the end, or if you just kind of been skipping through, looking through the chapters, and you gotten to this point, look out for a live watch party. We do want to have a live watch party where us 3 get on here and we kind of just interact and talk with different viewers, because I do like watching kind of with, people who are Knicks fans talking about the game, and getting involved as a group. I think the internet is really great for that, and we want to put that to use. So be on the lookout, or give us your thoughts if you're watching. Give us your thoughts on, would you want to engage in a live watch party? Because obviously it would be our faces on here, but we want to interact with people and talk about the game and see some reactions and hear some thoughts. But that'll do it for episode 9 of the Orange and Blue Crew. This has been the first round playoff preview. And of course, next week in the middle of the series, we'll come back with another episode giving our thoughts on the first few games. And then, our outlook on the series based on how the first few games have gone. It's been D, Reek, and Jai with the Orange and Blue Crew giving you your thoughts on the upcoming playoff series against the Sixers. Let's go Knicks. Orange and Blue Skies.
Let's go Knicks.
We'll see you next week.